Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today for Lifetime Adoptions Q&A for hopeful adoptive parents. I'm Kim King and I'm here with Heather Featherston and we have a lot of questions to go through in our quick 30-minute Q&A session. So it's going to move pretty quickly and we kind of saw a theme here with our questions. So we decided to really focus our Q&A today around birth moms. And we're going to be answering all the questions that you submitted, as well as any live questions that you submit specifically about birth moms, and also share with you how the birth mother perspective impacts how Lifetime reviews your application when you are considering Lifetime as a partner for your adoption. Speaking of your application, you are welcome to fill out Lifetime's free application at lifetimeadoption.com. We are still one of the very few agencies that continues to charge no application fee. So you are welcome to fill that out and don't have to spend a dime to find out whether or not we can actually have a successful partnership together and begin working with you and help guide you through those next steps. Now, when you fill out your application, it does not obligate you to work with Lifetime. It's more of, hey, we're here, we want to start the conversation, we want to get some guidance, maybe we're ready to start now on our adoption path in an active way, or maybe right now we're just considering adoption as an option or anywhere in between. You are welcome to fill out Lifetime's application, as well as request our info packet for hopeful adoptive parents by emailing me, kim@lifetimeadoption.com. I would love to connect with you and answer any questions that maybe we don't get to cover tonight. So if you have some questions or want to request your info packet, I will email that right back to you. Just be sure to include your first and last name as well as what state you're in and anything else that you feel comfortable sharing with me to help me understand where things are for you. You can also call and connect with a coordinator. You do not have to have a scheduled call to or a scheduled appointment in order to get questions answered over the phone. You can give us a call at 727-493-0933. And one last quick little thing is that if you are already working with Lifetime, this webinar tonight is not an exclusive webinar just for Lifetime families. You'll receive those invites in other email invites in your inbox, but this is more for families that are just beginning to learn about adoption and starting to get to know Lifetime. If you are here live, be sure to interact. We welcome your comments, questions, and feedback throughout the call. You can chat with us and you can type your questions into your questions box. And feel free to view our playlist of previous webinars on YouTube. We have several past webinars there, and so that you can binge listen to those and share those with your support network as well. So with that, Heather, I'm excited to dive right in. I know we have a lot of ground to cover.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. I love these webinars because we can go quick. We can cover a lot of, really a lot of points in education. And I love answering questions as families are learning about adoption.
So, question right off the bat, what do we as adoptive parents get to know about the birth mother?
That's great because a lot of times people think, they come in with an understanding of adoption that might be rooted more in what they've seen on TV or what they know from the past, where it's not really what modern open adoption looks like today. Today, a birth mother will choose parents based on what they share with her in their uh, website that we help you build on Lifetime's platform, a profile you prepare. She sees the information about you that you share, and then what you get to know about her once a birth mother has chosen you and has said, yes, I would like to get to know more about this family. Could I speak with them or do a video call with them? What we call and share with you is what we know about her, and that will include a lot of probably you know uh, biographical information and demographical information. You'll know a little about her situation. She may have shared some information with us about what she was drawn to in you. And we'll share with you what we know about her pregnancy, her baby, and certainly her hopes for the child. Now, one of the great things is you have the opportunity to speak with her, to get to know her, and she has the same with you. So in that process, you have, you have the ability to learn more about her, because really what you're doing early on there is you're setting the stage in most cases for an ongoing relationship. And open adoption today can be, more on the limited side, like pictures, letters, emails. It can be texting, video chat. It can be getting together once a year for visits, bringing the families together. So
Mhm.
really, as you learn about each other, get to know each other, again, it just sets the stage for the future.
And Heather, I feel like we should mention for families who may be brand new and listening, maybe this is your first adoption webinar. With lifetime adoption, we primarily work with pregnant birth moms, women who are considering placing a baby at birth.
Mhm.
And these are all voluntary relinquishments. And
Correct.
you, as the adoptive parents, will begin your program with us by establishing your adoption preferences. So then we present your profile to birth moms only as long as she fits within what you've already decided, and that we've guided you through establishing, are your adoption preferences, what you are for sure a yes to in your adoption, such as the
Mhm.
race of the baby, the age of the child, and things like that. So
Mhm.
when a birth mom is interested in you and wants to talk with you, as Heather is describing, we already know she fits within the scope of what you've decided, talked about, prayed about, researched, and have been guided through here at Lifetime. And you've decided it's a fit for us. And we would definitely love to be chosen by a birth mom within those characteristics. And then you get to know everything that we know about her. So here at Lifetime, we have a long history of being a little different from the traditional adoption agency or adoption attorney, where we actually have full disclosure with you so that you know everything we know, not necessarily because you're evaluating your ability to say yes to her, but more so that uh, for the child's future, so that you
Right.
have all the information, not just for now, but in parenting, that social information Heather mentioned, that biographical information, the demographics, and any medical history that we have. And every birth mom has to fill out her full medical history questionnaire and sign a medical release so we can share all those details with you from the very beginning and throughout as new information emerges.
Because really it does give you more information to parent the child.
Mhm.
In old days adoption, when adoptees would go to the doctor and they have to fill out a health history form, all of us do, they would have to just, write unknown adopted. But through adoptions through Lifetime, for the most part, you will have that information so your child does know their
Mhm.
health history.
If we have an open adoption, will the birth mother know where we live? And this is a common question that families often ask. Is she going to just come to our house?
Right,
If we have a plan to keep in touch and have visits, does that mean she comes over or shows up
right.
anytime she wants?
So generally, the birth mother will know, again, what you let her know through your information. That will include the state you live in. And if you choose to tell her the city you live in or general area, you can do that. Um, and as far as coming over, remember, like Kim said, these are voluntary relinquishments. A lot of adoptive parents go into adoption with this a little fear surrounding open adoption. These are moms who are choosing to do this. And believe me, in this day and age, it's much easier to say, nope, forget it, I want a parent, because they usually have the support of the people around them. They certainly have support through the community, things like subsidized housing and food programs and those types of there's help out there. These are women who are saying we want more for our children than we can provide. So they are not going to be sitting outside your house. There's no reason to be fearful of that. So really, in terms of will she know where we live, usually birth mothers have a general idea and they don't have specific unless the adoptive family chooses to share that with them.
And when you plan these once a year meetups, let's say, it's generally you'll be meeting up in a public neutral location, might not
Yes.
even be in your own town.
Right.
And Lifetime is nationwide.
Mhm.
So we have families all over the US. We don't just work in a specific region or just only in Florida or Arkansas where our license is. We've actually completed adoptions in every state across the nation, and a birth mom from any state in the nation can work with Lifetime. So chances are you're going to have an interstate adoption and not live anywhere near each other. But even if you do, um, she'll only have your address if you give it to her.
Right. Right.
And how long does a birth mother have to change her mind? And another question related to that is, well, what happens to us, the adoptive parents, if she does choose to parent?
Right. So this is kind of a kind of two questions that kind of have very separate answers. First, how long does she have to change her mind is determined by the state law, and it isn't necessarily your state law. And oftentimes it is her state law, but it can be your state law. And this is one of those things that the attorneys work out when we're working out, here is the scenario, which is the best law to follow for this particular adoption. Some states require that, nope, you have to use our laws. So this is where we rely on the attorneys, and you can't really make this determination until you have a match in place, and then you can look at the different options. I will say I think the longest we see is about 30 days. There are some states where a birth mother has to go to court. Those sometimes might stretch a little longer because you're waiting for a court date, but typically it is um, it is less than 30 days. Some states it is immediate. Some states it's 3 days, 7 days. It really depends, and it depends on a number of other things as well. Has she met with a social worker ahead of time and been advised of her rights? Then she might be able to sign sooner. There's so much detail in adoption law that it really it's one of the benefits of having those options, because you can really look to see which law is going to be best for this particular adoption. So let's say she does change her mind and you are a lifetime family. One of the beautiful things that our founder Marty Caldwell has built into every everything we do here at Lifetime, when a birth mother changes her mind, it's a loss. I mean, we understand that, we grieve with you, but there are no additional fees, there's no additional costs. You have the option of taking a pause if you need that, or we just keep going, keep presenting you to more birth mothers. um, as Kim said, with other organizations that charge a match fee or placement fee, those fees are typically not reimbursed and are lost if a match falls through. You are responsible for another match fee. If you have a generous agency, they may say, well, we'll only charge you half of the next match fee. But the reality of it is that's that's money spent that now has to be paid again. At Lifetime, we don't charge. There's no match fee, there's no placement fee. We really focus on a flat fee, so adoptive parents can better plan what their adoption will cost, and that's one of the reasons we also offer our financial coaching, because we understand that it is this is a can be a big investment for families, and we want to help and support along the way, and that includes not taking additional fees through the process.
hmm And can I just share a few facts here?
Sure.
We're about halfway through
Hmm.
our time together. It is certainly flying by as expected, as it always does. I really enjoy these webinars with you, Heather. We can just go on and on. We can do a
Hmm.
webinar on like literally each question.
Yeah.
But I want to share with families that here at Lifetime, we provide 24/7 support for birth moms from first contact on into the future. Again, this is exceptional because with a lot of organizations, and we still hear this today, like when pregnancy centers call us to verify that our hotline is still working and that someone, like a real person, is still answering, we answer right off the bat and they're almost surprised that they're getting a
Hmm.
real person that can actually help them right off the bat, like first ring type of thing. And they'll say that, oh, okay, that's good to know that you provide 24/7 support because sometimes I call and I leave a message or the voicemail is full or
Hmm.
I don't get a call back for like a week, but I had a client sitting with me that needed to speak with someone right away. So that 24/7 support that Lifetime has been known for decades now, it really sets us apart. And we receive multiple new intakes from new possible inquiring pregnant and placing birth moms every day. So the birth mom coordinator team here at Lifetime, they are well exercised in those intakes and that support and guiding those birth moms through everything step by step. And as far as how long a birth mom has to change her mind, Heather shared there's a range. It could be anywhere from a day to maybe 30 days. But the longer time frame does not necessarily mean that she's more likely to change her mind. So I don't want you to be fearful of those times where, families are matched with a birth mom that does have more time because there's a lot that we do with birth moms in our work to support and educate and empower them from the very beginning that minimizes that risk. And
Right.
that all comes from our founder, Marty Caldwell. And I want to encourage you, maybe while you're listening or at another time, go to lifetimeadoption.com and click where you can read about Marty, our founder, because she is an adoptive mom herself. She experienced multiple losses and many years trying to have a baby before she felt called to adoption. So that experience that she had really has shaped how we work with and help our families and the women who trust us to help guide them.
Hmm. Absolutely. So our next question is a one I hear a lot, and that is who names the baby, and
Hmm.
what if the child's older? So um, when the birth mother is in the hospital, she just delivered her baby, she is offered the opportunity to name the baby anything she wants on the original birth certificate, which also lists her as the mother. When the adoption is finalized, that's usually when the child's name, the last name, or the whole name can be changed, and that birth certificate will list you as the parents. So, you know, sometimes a birth mother has input or would like to have input on a name. And, sometimes families feel a little, I don't know that territorial is the right word, maybe also a little disappointed or feeling like, no, we're the parents, we should have the right. And I agree, you absolutely should. But it is one of those lasting gifts that a birth mom can have input on for the child. So I always encourage it that if the birth mother wants to contribute, or if she has a name that's important to her, or something like that, that we try to find a way to include that in the final. And some birth mothers don't. Some birth mothers will ask you, "What are you thinking about for a name?" Um, it's one of those things that I always say, don't ever make the name a make or break, because there's always a way to work it out. Someone can have two middle names. And often what I've seen in my 23 years of experience is that there's often a reason that a birth mother had a name in mind. And if we learn more about that, often it's very touching. But I will say too, it's very common for a family and a birth mother to learn, oh, they had similar tastes, similar ideas for the name, because again, a birth mother's choosing them. She feels a connection somehow to them. So it's not uncommon for them to have things in common, like taste in a name for a child. So
Hmm.
that's kind of how the naming goes for a baby. If the child is older, we really encourage families to not not change names willy-nilly, because child, typically knows their name, and the name is part of their identity.
Hmm.
And if that is something you're considering, obviously changing the last name, definitely. But it's good to talk to your coordinator, sometimes even talk to a counselor to talk through that process. What does that look like, and what is the motivation? Because again, the child already has an identity, so we have to be a little careful there.
Hmm. And our next question, how common is it for birth mothers to actually keep in touch after the adoption? This is a question that adoptive parents, just they may not have any agenda behind why they're asking, but
Right.
they're just curious. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so everyone says open adoption is the norm. Keeping in,
Mhm.
knowing the birth mom, getting a chance to learn about each other, getting a chance to talk to each other, or maybe even meet ahead
Mhm.
of time, and us sending her updates, us being willing to have an annual meetup with her in a public neutral place as long as things are positive with her and she does her own travel and everything to us. But okay, we're open to that. But how often do they actually want that? And how often do they actually do that? Like, do they
Right.
actually have their visits?
Right. So, I would say it is more common now for birth mothers to actually keep in touch for one reason, and that is because it is easier.
Hmm.
Now that we all have cell phones, we all text, we're connected, say on Messenger, on FaceTime, different things. It is easier to keep in touch. And that's one of the things we do at Lifetime before an adoption, part of the match. We want to ask the birth mother, what are your expectations for this? And we want to be sure that the family and the birth mother share the same expectations so that there's no surprises, or it can at least minimize any concerns going forward. But I would say in most open adoptions today, that contact does continue. It is not uncommon for it to, um, I'll say, uh, dwindle off a bit on the birth mother's side. And that is because once she feels accepted, like she knows you care about her, like she knows that she has permission and the ability to be a part of her child's life, she has that peace in her heart that she can move forward knowing you're there, you're welcoming of her. And sure, those visits, they often happen earlier when the child's younger. When the child gets older, it's not uncommon to maybe skip a year or so, or maybe you're not hearing from her as much. Every birth mother is different, every adoption is different. But I will say for families, if you're offering or making a commitment, it is important that you keep that commitment.
Hmm. Absolutely. And just stand ready to follow through if she does fall off the face of the planet a little bit and reaches
Right,
out. Because birth
right,
moms are going to go through their own seasons in life too. She may be coming to adoption and choosing you because you're maybe, seven big life steps ahead of where she is right now, but she's
hmm,
still going to kind of go through those seven steps herself, such as, figuring out what direction she wants her life to take, what occupation, what education or training, and then meet someone, get married, have other children, buy a house, start a new job.
right.
And these are all things that birth moms, tend to experience just in life. And sometimes those are the moments that you might not hear from them as much, or maybe you get an invite to the wedding or the graduation. We've seen that many
Right.
times over the years. And it's just those moments are so treasured and welcomed by the adoptive parents.
And it's also good to keep in mind that as the child gets older, the adoptee, there will come a time, I would say probably after around 12 years old or so, where he or she may have a voice in this too. You
Hmm.
know, it's children's, they learn about adoption more as they get a little older. Certainly you're telling them from the beginning their adoption story. But, as they get older, and also they get more involved in sports or get more involved, those visits that may be harder to do. But you as adoptive parents, it's just important to keep that commitment about updating and doing all you can to ensure that that opportunity is there for that open connection.
Hmm. So, rounding out our time together today, and kudos to you for choosing to invest this time out of your day or evening, depending on if you're listening live or listening to the recording. Kudos to you for spending some time today with us and learning about adoption
Hmm.
because not only is knowledge power, but it's also reassuring. And we hope that the information that we're sharing with you is encouraging and maybe helps lift the burden a little bit that you may be carrying on your shoulders with these unanswered questions, or, maybe some stereotypes and assumptions that we've helped to unpack today and replace with just reality, and knowing that families move through these connections with birth moms with unexpected ease because they're all on the same page with the same goal in mind.
Mhm.
And when you come to Lifetime, I've mentioned during our call the application that we offer. So when you fill that out, it gets reviewed, and oftentimes families just want to know, whether they ask us directly or they're just wondering to themselves, what does Lifetime look for in an application for adoptive parents?
And this is really a reflection of all the things we've talked about already. Is the family um, ready to adopt? Meaning, can they legally adopt? That's one of the big things we look for in an application. There isn't a lot that can hold a family back from adoption, but there are things. Do they have the characteristics that a birth mother is currently looking for in adoption? And that's a big one because, like I say, not only are we evaluating your ability to adopt, we're also evaluating, your, do we feel like you're someone who would be chosen by the birth mothers that we are working with?
Mhm.
And it's interesting, Kim, because sometimes there's trends in what birth mothers are seeking too. So, we're always kind of keeping our pulse on what birth mothers are asking for, what they're looking for, who are they choosing, who are they gravitating for? Do we need families open to a certain race, or do we need families of a certain race? Because, birth mothers requesting African American or Hispanic or Spanish speaking, so we really have to balance those things as well. We are looking at, can families afford adoption? um, can they, do they have the ability to work with our financial coach to help build that adoption budget? So we're just kind of looking at the whole picture, because that's one of the reasons we don't charge an application fee. If we don't feel we can help you, we don't want to take any of your adoption funds, the money you've set aside for adoption. And so that's why with our application process, we really want to see, does this family fit what our birth mothers are choosing? And do we believe that this is a family that, based on their preferences, also would have opportunities to be chosen?
hmm And as Heather, shared, there are some basic facts about you that'll tell us whether or not you could even legally adopt right now. And
Mhm.
and that doesn't mean you have to have your home study. Of course, you're eventually going to need a home study, and we'll guide you through when to start that, and we'll tell you all about it and who to use that our other families have used and everything. But what Heather means by that is, are you old enough? Um,
Yeah, that's a big
are
one.
you legally married if you're a couple hoping to adopt a child together? Those kinds of things. Your basic demographics, and whether or not you're within the norm of what we see in our adoptions every day, so we can expect success in a timely manner. And sometimes families will have already gotten their heart set on Lifetime because their values really align with us. They love the way we present the information, the support we give them to the placing parents. They just love what we're all about, and it resonates with them. So they've already gotten their heart set on us, and maybe they have some family characteristics or some adoption preferences that create a very narrow scope for us to work within, and we're going to be very upfront with them about that. And perhaps, as the professional that bears the responsibility of giving that feedback, we might say we don't feel we can help it, but it doesn't mean they would be bad parents or anything like that. It's no reflection on their ability to successfully adopt with someone else or to be great parents, but we just may not feel confident we can help them in a timely manner. And a family may say, well, we really love Lifetime. We're willing to wait longer,
Hmm.
right? And even then, we may still say, we don't want to put you in that position. And so
Right.
maybe go to your second or third adoption professional choice. So you should be
Mhm.
researching multiple places. As I shared with a family yesterday, you kind of want to know what's out there so you can really appreciate who you end up choosing to partner with.
Right.
So continue learning and continue browsing our website and listening to the webinars that we provide. Keep in touch, continue taking your next step. If you're already in touch with Lifetime, then of course you have a coordinator that has either reached out to you or who has been assigned on your file to be your main point of contact. So if you don't have that yet, you are welcome to go to lifetimeadoption.com. You can request information and fill out the free application that we provide at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. And you can also connect with us on social media. We're on all the different platforms under Lifetime Adoption so that you can continue getting to know us and determining if we could be a great partner for you. But the best way to find that out is to just apply and just see what that conversation can look like. So again, thank you so much for spending this past 30 minutes. It was a whirlwind. We covered a ton. Heather, Heather, thanks for being with us as well.
Sure, sure.